Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bag Makers Society. Today's guest is a wonderful bag maker. She's not just a bag maker, she's also an amazing seamstress, sewist, whichever term you like to use, and makes some amazing clothing as well. So I'm really looking forward to chatting to her and finding out all about her journey. So let me bring in Rae.
Well,
Hi.
hello.
I did say that right, didn't I? It is Rae.
It is Rae. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm known for not getting names right.
No, you've
So I do always like to check.
done that
So
perfectly.
thank you so much for giving us an hour or so of your time this evening. I really, really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
So let me just bring up the chat box here. Got a few people coming in to say hello. We've got Donna and Elaine. Tracy
Fantastic.
says hi. Sue says hi to all. We've got Sophie, Paula, Maureen, and then obviously we've got Andy as well, who was basically telling me that the sound sounds good.
That's
He
super.
always likes to do a little check at the beginning just to make sure that the sound is coming through all right, because we do sometimes get thwarted by gremlins.
It can be.
Oh, fingers crossed we're all right. So do you just want to introduce yourself and kind of just tell us how you got into bag making and sewing?
Yeah. Yeah. So to do that, I think we need to go back a few more years in time to when I started sewing. So, like a lot of people, I started sewing by hand as a child. I sewed clothes for my dolls. I knitted clothes for them. I crocheted clothes for them. It basically, if you had a craft, I would craft it. If it wasn't nailed down, I would make something out of it. And that's been a theme throughout my life. And it comes from my mum and her mum, I guess, because I grew up in the 70s when there was all the Golden Hands crafting books, which were just amazing. Macrame was a big thing in jewelry making. And,
Yeah.
we've done pretty much all of them. And actually, I've now got to the stage where I have to, if I look at a new craft, I have to go, I don't think I need to do that because I know I'll get obsessed with it. It's one of those things. We all love these hobbies for all the same reasons. So yeah, so growing up through the 70s, I learned to sew. I learned to crochet, craft, do make anything, which was fabulous, and I really enjoyed the joy of creation. But at that stage, I wasn't making garments for me. Take ourselves on then to secondary school time. And so I hit secondary school, and I was 5'5" and looked like an adult at 11 going to secondary school. And my mother was 5'10", so I got a real sense of the fact that it probably was going to go in that direction for me as well. And sure enough, exactly that happened. So from sewing for pleasure and sewing for craft and sewing for presents, which is what I did as a child, I then thought, I can sew for me, because I got to the stage where this was so I'd have been that sort of age in the 80s. You didn't have shops that sold tall clothes. You didn't have shops that
No.
sold busty clothes. So the likes of Bravissimo, who had their clothing range, the likes of Long Tall Styling, who did tall ranges, they either didn't exist or were enormously expensive, which as a teenager really weren't accessible to me.
Yeah.
So what I then did was I learned the proper formal stuff at school. I had went to a girls' grammar school where they still had needlework classes, which was terrific. And my mother had a sewing machine which she got for her 21st birthday, which is still just about going. I still have that.
Oh,
And
that's
I know, it's amazing. I learned to sew with her. Her mother was a really detailed seamstress. She made the most beautiful dresses. She must have done it for a living at some point. But as a child, you don't really know what your grandparents do for a living. You just know they can do these things. There's magic, all-encompassing beings that can bake and sew and create and do this. So it's just, well, of course, my grandmother can say that's how this works. So I
yeah.
grew up with all of these glorious, inspirational people. And I grew up being very, very fearless of fabric. So I would think nothing at that age, in my teens, of taking a bit of fabric and go, I'm going to make a dress to wear this evening, and just do it. And I
Mhm.
wouldn't think hard about it. I wouldn't fear the fabric. I wouldn't worry. I just think, yeah, I know that's going to fit me because I'll just make it and it'll happen. And that was a terrific time to do it, because of course we only had the people we had close access to, people we could phone up. We had books. We had our parents if we lived with them. We didn't have the internet, and that's been a big revelation. I hope we'll come to that. So I grew up. I went to university. I made my ball gowns, and at that time I was making floor-length velvet ball gowns, which I know that would give people the heebie-jeebies sewing velvet, but I just took it in my stride and made a velvet ball gown because that's how I kind of approach things. Through my career, I was a senior banker, which is about as dull as it sounds, but it's it pays the bills. Let's just put it like that.
Yeah.
And I sewed through necessity. So I did actually by that time find some clothes that were long enough in the shops for me. They'd actually invented tall people by the time I started work. And I was able to buy clothes like that. But I still knew that if I needed something special, I couldn't buy it, I could make it. So I'd make the occasion dress. I would make curtains because I begrudged the cost of paying somebody else to make bits of fabric. I'd make things for home, but not much else. And I kind of did that whilst I was working. And I was fortunate enough 10 years ago to retire early. So I was done with being a banker, which won't surprise any of your listeners, I think, tonight. It had its place, but I decided I was done with that. And during that time, I really started expanding more and more the things I was doing for pleasure, the things I was doing because I loved them. Because, I didn't need to do the maths in the bank because that was done. So the first thing I did was to come back to sewing garments. Like a lot of people, my weight changes, and I had a stage. Either if your weight goes up a lot or if your weight comes down a lot, it kind of inspires you to make a new wardrobe. So I had one of those moments of I hate everything in my wardrobe and just decided to make the whole lot from scratch. Just right, that's done it. Did a whole design thing. I'm a bit of an all or nothing person, and you'll get that sense more as we talk some more. So I did the color charts. I worked out what I was going to do. The first clothing designer I picked up was called Sew Over It, who do classic British, a lot of dresses, but good tailoring. And I found their shape suited me, although they weren't quite tall enough, and I had to adjust for height. I like their shape. I like the way. I think her basic figure was the same shape as mine, which meant their pattern block was sort of went out and then in and then out again, which some people do, some people don't, but I do, and it really suited me. So I did that and developed all my sewing, and I bought more sewing machines. So at that point in time, didn't have an overlocker, just starting from my machine which was my 21st birthday present, and that developed. And then I got into pattern testing because that was fun, because I thought people who buy sewing patterns want to know what those patterns look like on middle-aged, middle-class women, and there are and tall people as well. There's a big movement called Sew Over 50, which is about showing that women over 50 can show clothes perfectly well, and they're one of the demographics that sell well. So actually, I don't want to know what the 20-somethings look like, because they look glorious in paper bags. I want to know what people
they do,
and that is just so refreshing to be able to do, and to be able to talk. I think it's good for body confidence. We Deb and I were talking before we came on screen. We ended up talking about body shapes, which is kind of what a lot of sewers launch straight into. It's like, here we are going to make this, but it doesn't fit my bust. But anyway, today's discussion isn't about that. I'll gladly talk to anybody at length about that, but that's not about today. Did some pattern testing. I moderated for some clothing pattern makers. Now, during lockdown, I was working in my husband's firm. I just did his accounts and his payroll, and I got furloughed. So he was at work because he was an essential worker. He ran a commercial cleaning firm, so he had to go to work, and he had to supply the doctors and the pharmacists and all these people that had to stay open with the cleaning. So I was at home, quite bored, and I decided that I was going to sell some fabric, because I had too much in my fabric. We all buy more than we can possibly ever use in our own lifetime. So I decided to sell some, And that got me selling fabric. And so this is a very strange little journey we've taken. Got me into selling fabric. So I did that started that up online, and I sold through a fabric group on Facebook, which was good. And then I set up my own. And then we moved house. So John and I got together later in life, like you and Andy, and we weren't married at the time. But so we moved out to Kent. We bought a house out in Kent, and then we had lockdown. We had all these huge events happening over the last few years. Everyone can characterise things like where they were when lockdown happened, where they were living, what on earth. Mm-hmm. So I tried to get involved in the village, despite the fact it was all shut and you couldn't go out. I was talking to some people in our Facebook group. Village Facebooks are very niche places. They're lovely. It's either the dog running up the road or who can sell me red fabric by Tuesday. Well, actually, that might be me. So, despite the fact we were in lockdown and at arm's length from everybody, I managed to develop some friendship with a lovely lady here called Juliet. And she said, I go to this bag making group. I said, I don't want to make bags. I said, I don't even like handbags very much. I don't want to make bags. I've just bought an embroidery machine. I'm really happy with sewing. I do not need any more compulsive, ridiculous hobbies. I'm sure you can tell us about all the things you've done. Yeah, how many have cross stitches we haven't finished. So, and don't want to do that at all. Anyway, so eventually lockdown finished. And it really was eventually, wasn't it? We all whatever whether we were working or not, it was a tricky time in the country's life. And somehow she talked me into trying it. I don't know how she did it, because I don't want to do this. I'll tell you. Oh my word. Yes. And eventually she talked me into doing a trial one, which was it was a blue colour one, clematis.
Right.
And I still have this bag, and it's a shocker. I did it because I thought, well, let's just see if I can do it with the materials I've got and my machines. And I had a go, and I did it, and it was actually all right. I mean, I've actually since remade it because my machine just wasn't. I used all the wrong interfacing, all the wrong stuff, and some zips I found in my drawer. Like the first time you try it. I thought, well, I'm not going to buy all the stuff before I've even started, because that would just be really silly. So I made this bag, and then I started thinking, I'll just do another one and see if I can improve on that. And it was a slippery slope.
Well, we can see behind you how well that progression went.
Yes,
because there's some beautiful makes behind you there.
That's kind of where I'm at now. So it turns out that here in Kent, there's a most delightful in-person bag making group called Bag Makers of Kent. Mm-hmm. So we have a
Facebook
I've heard
page.
Of it. Yeah. And if any of you lovely folk are out there are in Kent, very happy, please come along to the Facebook group. And we have these glorious in-person sessions. And sometimes they're about sewing, and sometimes they're just about chatting about techniques and machines and just stuff, really. And I followed the same route. I did some pattern testing. I admin for a handful of people. And that's really brought me where I am today. So I've got a couple of bags to show you, if that's all right. Unless you wanted to actually,
yes, please.
Anyway, pause for breath. Let me pause for breath. Let me have a drink, and I'll go get some bags. And think of some questions to ask me while I'm going to get some stuff. I thought it made a neater backdrop than the mess that's my cutting table, but maybe not. So, I think we all have a style in things we do, whether it's dressing or whether it's what we wear. And I think I love all the pattern fabrics. And what I found is that although I love them, like with garments, I might love them, but actually what I wear is the classic ones. So I'm here wearing a striped blue shirt and a navy cardi because that's what I like. And actually, that's what I ended up making in garments, and that's close to where I ended up with bags as well. Now, it wasn't deliberate that all of these are blue and what I'm wearing is blue. This was not staged, I promise.
But it's a theme.
It's a theme, and actually I can see that behind you as well. So I think you and I might be wired fairly similarly. In fact, I'm sure this one is floppy. But I thought, well, I'll make bags that I like, because I can't, in all honesty, sit and make a bag. I don't make to sell. I make because I love it, and I give them away for charity or as presents or whatever. I just like making. It's the joy of creation. So one of the designers I got involved with is Leanne. So I moderate for Crafted by Leanne, who makes some amazing patterns, and some of these are hers. And I'm probably going to embarrass myself and get all the names wrong. So this one here is a Sophia, which is done in printed waterproof canvas. So that fabric is a dead stock one called, and it's called something like Party Night, and it's just these mad girls partying. But it's just a cut down Sophia, which is a really simple tote bag. I actually simplified it further and even took the zip thingy. See, technical terms for me.
What do you call it?
It's just an open tote bag, and that I really, really like. It's just a bit of fun. It didn't take so long at all to make, and I
love the Sophia.
Yeah, it's nice because you can just dress it up or down, can't you? So it was quick make. This is webbing, just riveted. Oh yeah, I've got a rivet press, got all of the gadgets. I love a gadget as well. Love a gadget.
Oh yes, me too.
Yeah, I can see those behind you as well. I think you and I, if we compared rooms, they'd just be all the same stuff. This is another one of Leanne's, and I'm really sorry I can't remember the name of it. But she's done this before. She's done this signature pocket that opens at the front, which is just fabulous. And
it's a sunshine, isn't it? A sunshine. I can never see it. Sunshine satchel.
Could very well be.
It is, because I'm looking at mine down there, and I'm like, yeah, it's the same.
Fantastic. Now, I do like experimenting with the fabric. So this fabric here, although it looks like a vinyl, it's more of a scuba interfaced within an inch of its life. And it's actually metallic and got a very you'll never see this on the camera, you just have to trust me, but it feels like vinyl, but it's really, really not. So it was fairly stable anyway, but it just wasn't, it was too floppy. Nobody wants floppy fabric on here, so that's interfaced really well, and that color combo I think is quite cute. Now we'll see a theme after this. This one isn't a Leanne pattern, but this is exactly the same color combo. So this, I think, is a Shambhala one. Shambhala. I don't even know how you say it. That's awful, isn't it?
Oh, I never know how to say anything, to be fair.
But this is much more with it. So it's got a more sturdy flap. It's got all sorts going on. It's got metallic jobbies in the back. It's lined with fairly plain fabric, because if I do a bag that's a bit more jolly on the outside, I go for the plain inner. But if I do a plain outer, I go for the patterned inner.
Yes.
So what else?
I'm very much plain on the outside, party on the inside.
Party on the inside. Yeah, that's exactly it. So this is well, test me on how you say this. Hiraeth.
I think it's Hiraeth.
That one.
I think. I might be wrong.
So this is a beautiful kind of Air Forcey dusky blue, which I absolutely love. What it's got on the inside is
very nice.
That's actually a Gutermann quilting fabric, but the colour match was so amazing, I had to have it. And it's actually patched. These are the things that you tell people who make bags, but you never tell anybody else. It's all patched together on the inside, because of course the bit was the remnant. It was all the wrong shape, and I loved it. And then I added on to it. This is another one of my mad hobbies. In the hoop embroidery, I made a key ring using the same vinyl, and that just clips onto it, because there's been a bit of a fashion for having danglies.
Yeah, that really sets it off. That really,
I mean,
it does.
It's nice. Let's take it off. So without it, it's nice, but it's nothing special, is it? But with it, it just goes, oh.
Yeah, it's just a nice finishing touch, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lime green and a royal blue, just to add in a little bit of extra colour. I think that's quite fun. That one does take a little amount of time to make. Have you made one?
I've made a few of them, yeah.
Yeah.
I found with that one in particular, it was more the cutting out and interfacing, stabilizing. The actual going together of the pattern,
Yeah,
it wasn't that long. It was making sure everything was cut out correctly.
that's right. It's quite precise, because otherwise, if you don't get it precise, you don't get the angles of your hair going right, or they don't. I'm moving my hand in the wrong direction because I'm reversed today. But yeah, and you have to get these in exactly the right places, or it just looks wonky. And there's all of that, and there's also when you turn it, it feels like some sort of weird science puzzle, doesn't it? You think you almost got your hands upside down and like this.
When you're cutting the pattern out, you're like,
oh, how's this going to work? And then you get these massive reveals that then go, oh, I like the ones that tell you you're not allowed to peek inside until you've done it. So just trust the process. We've done this lots. Oh, I don't know. So anyway, but that is very much the sort of thing that I make, and I love making.
I've noticed on quite a lot of your bags on like your Instagram that you have embroidery in them. Is that something that you love to do, to combine the two?
I think it's a great thing, because I quite like tone on tone embroidery. So I think one of the ones I've got on, a lot of those I've given away now that's on my Instagram account, and we can link the Instagram account below, can't we?
It's already linked, yeah.
Fantastic. So there's one that's got it was a challenge in one of the groups, in the Shambhala group, to make a Gothic version of any of their bags. And what I did was I took one of their quite big, and it was kind of ordinary banana shaped bag. It was quite a big one, and it got attacked with a massive skull embroidery, and a kind of Celtic skull embroidery, which was just glorious. But it was in quite a dark grey, so it was subtle, but it was still very, very definitely there. And then it got covered in studs, like would be on a leather biker jacket. And that I gifted to my friend, because she adores it. She, you know, sometimes you make something, you just go, I know exactly who that bag's for. So I do like doing that and making it just that little bit different. But I also like the going back to the kind of the toning colours. I do like using tone on tone, and I think using the embroidery is just a fun way of, otherwise how else would you get a skull to be on the side of a bag? You might have to applique it or print it or whatever. I think it's just such fun. Embroidery is a fun thing. And I did bring a couple of embroidered things that I've made, which aren't bag making, but they have made kind of things with it. So this one, I do quite like Celtic art, as you can probably tell from this. I'm sorry, I'm not Celtic great. This is just one of those little dice trays, trinket trays, and you make it all in the hoop, and then you just cut it out afterwards. So you do all of it together. It's like we stick a bit on the top, stick a bit on the bottom, then you cut it out with a quilting ruler and a sharp knife, and then Bob's your uncle. You've got a little tray.
Fab. And
I really like the evenness of that embroidery. So that is just, let me take it the right way. That's just perfect. There's not a stitch out of place, and I can't stitch that neatly for all the tea in China.
No, me neither.
I can do decent edge stitching. My top stitching is good enough to be able to do some contrast colour, but I can't do that freehand, even with a template. Yeah. So that, I just love the precision of it, and I just think it's amazing. And then,
so with your embroidery, have you got any good resources for people if they're wanting to get into embroidery? Like, where have you learned to do that?
So I think I started with a couple of firms who start at kind of basic areas. I mean, the machines tend to come with a number of set patterns. There are all of the designers, like all the bag making designers, have patterns and things which are accessible to new users, and they have samples, and they quite often have free samples. So for example, on an embroidery, doing a single color thing might be a great place to start, because you only have to thread the machine once and you just line it up and let it go. Let me just grab something from the board. This is one of the things I made early. This is just a sample, because there's also something very, very therapeutic about watching it. The brother machines come with a lot of trademark Disney characters, and so that needed some color changes, but the ability just to produce a little Mickey Mouse with, not much effort. Yes, I have to make sure his shorts are red and his buttons are yellow, but other than that, it's actually quite easy to do. And then you kind of develop it, and you work out. Everyone has different styles. There's a firm called Urban Threads who I buy quite a lot from, and they have quite dark designs. So there's a lot of dragons. There's a lot of gothic stuff. The skull one, which is on my Instagram account, is from there. And then you can make things in the hoop as well, which is quite fun. So you can do this is a little Union Jack one, who I think is by a designer called Lisi or Lisi. I don't know how to pronounce it. Isn't it funny? You see all these people all the time. You think, I don't know how to say their names out loud. But this, I think, is a really cute little thing. And obviously, it's meant to be in Union Jack colours, but you make it flat. So it comes out flat. And the last couple of stages are you sew the side seam, and you put the poppers on, and then suddenly it's a finished article. But again, I think the neatness of this, the neatness of this is just absolutely fabulous. And you know that everyone you produce, unless your machine gets caught up or you power cut or whatever, it's going to look exactly like that. And I do think that's fun. And you can go as far as making look, I've made something that isn't blue. This is just proved that I do make
wow.
But that's using some
that's fun.
Gone the wrong way. Patent vinyl, hearts, it's a completely different thing. But again, it's so easy to do. And that's compulsive and addictive as well. So I think to use those two together.
Literally, Donna's saying in the chat there, I will not go down the embroidery rabbit hole. Got too many crafts as it is.
Yeah, Donna, it's not the cheapest thing in the world, but it is utterly fabulous.
Yeah.
If you live in Kent, come to my house. We'll do a taster session, and.
So Tracy's asking, which do you prefer, sewn clothes or sewn bags? Michelle's asking the same question.
That's like asking someone to pick their favourite pet or their favourite child. You just get it's just no. I like sewing.
Depends on the mood.
I like sewing, and no, I don't have a favourite. I like all of them, and I think a lot of us like continuing to grow. So we like developing new things. We like trying different things, different techniques, different machines, whatever it is. And it might be that, I don't know, I like making jeans. I like the precision of doing all the top stitching and the riveting but equally I like being able to make a t-shirt in an hour because I haven't got one in that colour. So
yes.
No, that's an unfair question. So it's
have you found that any of the skills that you've learned through garment sewing have really helped to transfer into bag making, or have helped you in your bag making?
I mean, absolutely. So I came along with a knowledge of how to interface, how to follow patterns, how to work out seam allowances, how the machines worked. Because I know people that have started on bag making with no knowledge of how to use a sewing machine. So all of those core sewing skills are absolutely transferable. I think what I've been able to take back to garment making, which is probably going to be on your next question, is some of the precision stuff, because in garment making you don't have to be that precise, particularly stretch fabric. I kind of say that it's very forgiving. If you're a couple of mil out, nobody cares. It's still going to fit you, because a mil over my body is going to be nothing. But this is this one here is a Spencer Og. I think it's called the Corcordian. This one, if you're a couple of mil out, your edges aren't going to match up, are they? Or you're going to find that, I don't know, your pockets on the inside aren't going to match.
Yeah.
So it's a funny thing. Now this one unfortunately took me into the next rabbit hole, which is a cutting machine, an electronic cutting machine. So you can have I've got the silhouette because I like the size of it, and it was a slightly better. I like the software that came with it as well. And with this one, what I've done here was I converted these into SVG files, which can then be used for cutting files. I think she does supply these, but I think maybe they came out after release. I can't remember. And then what that gives you is the exact precise cuts already. So I'm not using a template to cut this. I'm using my cutting machine to produce those. And if you do bulk sewing, if you sew to sell, if you sew for markets or gifts or anything like that, I think I made 10 of these in 2 hours from memory, and that included the
That's
cutting.
not bad going.
No,
yeah,
no, because I mean,
it took you probably that length of time to cut it yourself, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So it definitely cuts down on the cutting time, but the massive gain is the precision. Because you're not. I was
just going to say, I was literally having this conversation with somebody yesterday about the precision within bag making.
Yeah.
And like my bag making really improved once I got that precision down. Yes. And once, with my cutting out and with my interface and
yes.
really making sure that, like I say, I wasn't a couple of mil out or it can be a game changer.
It can, and it gives you the precision in your stitching as well. So let's see how close we can come in on that. I don't know whether you're going to be able to see that. So I hope you can see that my top stitching is pretty near the edge of that.
Yeah, you can see that.
Yeah, so you get that absolute precision. Whereas if I was top stitching a pair of jeans, and I mean jeans are awkward because you always top stitch in jeans orange, which is a very contrast colour.
Yes.
But generally for top stitching, if you wobble a bit, nobody's going to notice. If you wobble on that, that's the front of a small purse. You're going to see that, even though I've done it in the same colour. So I've done grey on grey. You're really going to see that. So that's it. I don't know whether it taught me to slow down or whether it just taught me better control.
It's a little bit of both, I think.
Yeah.
Like one of the things that I'll say a lot of the time is just slow down and enjoy the process, and from beginning to end. And I'm the world's worst for wanting something to be finished, and it's in my head and I want it done. Absolutely. And I've had to really, over the last few years, pull myself in, make myself slow down. And then ultimately, it ends up being quicker because I'm not unpicking. I'm not throwing a temper tantrum because it hasn't gone right.
Yeah. I do like making patterns more than once, particularly obviously if I like them, because you don't have to do that level of thinking. Perhaps the second time you might still have to, but when you're onto your third and your fourth version, you've got the process down, and you can then stop and actually, I don't have to think about that. That's the next stage. I'm going to do that neatly. I'm going to spend my time over it and enjoy it. And I think that's fabulous.
So, what machine do you sew on?
Oh,
for your bags.
What my latest machine? I have one or two machines. So I started off on my domestic brother, which is just I think it's about a 300 quid model. It's the one that does automatic buttonholes, but not much more. And that was okay for fabric, but wasn't okay for vinyl. I then went back to my mum's machine from 1965, because that's metal. All the machines back in the 60s, they were metal framed, metal geared, the whole thing. That wasn't too bad, but it is starting to show its age. What I ended up with was, like a lot of girls in my club, is an HD9. So I think that's a good all-purpose. It's allegedly portable. You can take it with you if you can lift 17 kilos. So it is portable, but it's heavy. But I think that's quite a nice combination of the heft of the machine. Generally does really nice stitches. Some people struggle with tension on it. I've never struggled with it. I think it's amazing. And it just does what you ask it to do. I mean, there's upsides and downsides in all machines. One of the things we quite often do at the end of the day is go around and look at everyone's machines. And there's a Juki, I think, which is a lighter weight than that. But I think it's then more expensive. So it's I can't think of the model number. But then
I was trying to think of it, but I can't.
you know the one I mean. So I think it comes up to 30 kilos, because my friend has a bad back, and she says actually it's still heavy, but it makes it more durable. But then that's got more clearance under the foot, because that's one of the things the HD9 doesn't do. It doesn't come up very high underneath the foot. So you know, even if you lift it to its top level, it's not the biggest space, is it?
Yes. Yeah.
So it's a good solid machine. Almost I don't think it's ever gone wrong. Occasionally it's pinged a bit at me, which is just grumbling. Keep it oiled and look after it, and they will all last a decent long time. But no, that's a big machine. And it's also fast. And what I've ended up doing is using that for dressmaking. So where I've done a lot of stuff fast. So, for example, I made waistcoats for my husband's singing group. I think I made 36 of them. It's so fast. Wow. You can just go, right, here's the seam, and as long as it's almost like it eats it, and to then go back to a domestic. Well, I mean, they are domestic, but they're heavy duty. To go back into a regular machine, it feels like a snail. It's like, come on, I've asked you to do this nicely.
I find exactly the same when I get my domestic machine out, which is very, very rarely. I'm like, what's wrong with it? And I'm like, oh no, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just much slower than what I'm
jammed under the pedal. It doesn't go fast enough. So yeah, and that just gets preserved for zigzags and buttonholes, really.
I mean, I don't even have my machines on the fastest setting either, and they're still faster than a domestic.
Yeah, I do when I'm doing things like very, very big straight seams. So if I was doing curtains or if I was doing linings in something, I would have it on the fastest speed. Most garments I probably have it on the medium, which is plenty fast enough, because you still got to have some level of control with it, apparently.
Yeah, and I find as well, especially with when you're bag sewing, a lot of the seams aren't that big anyway. No. So if you have it on the fastest setting, you're stopping and starting and really quickly. And I just like going back a little bit to what we were saying before. It's just about having that precision and that level of control, isn't it? So
you don't have the precision if you go that fast, and it's a trade-off all the time. But what it still has is a lot of machines only have the kind of feel like they've got the cutting power when they're going fast, whereas this will stitch through everything, even at like 1 stitch a minute, if that's what you ask it to do. So I think it's just a good machine.
I find the funny thing with my jack is I wind the bobbin on at the fastest speed, obviously to get the oil through the machine. And then I forget that I've got it on the fastest speed. I go to sew something and nearly take my fingers with it. So I'm like, right, remember to put the machine back to the speed that you like it at. Because I think I only have mine on about 450. Yeah. But it's 2,200's the fastest.
Oh, that is fast.
It is like,
I think my top speed's about 1,600, but that's still plenty. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's never anywhere near that. Like I say, apart from when I'm winding bobbins and I forget, and then like I say, I nearly
making curtain speed, isn't it? And nobody wants to be sewing at that speed. Yeah. Your arms almost can't feed the stuff through it fast enough, can they?
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, I mean, literally, if you're only sewing a little seam before you know it, it is your fingers that's under there, not just the piece of fabric. So that's one thing I to try to always remember now. I mean, I do try to always wind bobbins like before I start. I wind plenty, so I don't run out midway. But sometimes I forget.
If I'm being well behaved, one of the things I do is when I finish with my machine, I take all the threads off and set it back to the regular settings, whatever those are. That doesn't always happen. So, like, everyone's machine's got a default setting. Like, I've got a default needle that lives in it. I've got, everyone uses a certain thing and then only changes it by exception. So I tend to know. I always know what needles are in it. But I try. It's like the overlocker. I always try and reset that. If I've had a weird fabric that's needed some different settings, I always try and set it back, because I know I won't remember when the first time I go.
Yeah. Well, it's like Andy was sewing on this the other day, and I had it on the very, very slowest setting for him because he's still getting used to using the industrial. And then I sat down and was sewing, and I was like, what's wrong with my machine? Like, and I totally forgot that I hadn't put it back to the 450, 500 that I have it at.
Yeah.
So I was like, it's weird what's going on with it, but that's all it was, is because I hadn't put it back to what it should have been. So, does your husband get involved with any of your hobbies?
No, he doesn't really. He's been the recipient of a good few things, because I've made him garments. I've made my stepson garments, which was amazing because he is 6'5",
Right.
and has been 6'5" since he was quite young. So he had the same problems. I was very had masses of sympathy with him, because he suddenly got enormously tall, couldn't buy a uniform, couldn't buy this, nothing was long enough. And the specialist men's tall stuff is a bit unfashionable. You can go to High and Mighty. And I know Giacomo's come out more recently, but that's not amazing quality. And it's the same target, tall and big men. It's the same. It tends to be the same groups of people. But as a teenager, it's like you can't go to either of them. You can't have a teenager going to High and Mighty. Honestly, they'd look like somebody's granddad. So the first couple of things I made for him, he just thought it was amazing that the legs were long enough. It's like, and he's going. I say, is that the right length? He says, the sleeve's too long. I've never had that in my life. And he was so excited to see this. And as he's matured, and he's 21 now, he's been able to find, again, shops that suit him and suit his style, or shops that cut it slightly longer and are okay for him. But as a kid, you just don't have access to that stuff. And you don't have your own money. You just have to go, well, we've got to get you to school in some trousers which actually reach your socks.
Yes. And sometimes as well, you find that the like you were sort of saying about, the female versions, is it long tall Sally's?
Long Tall Sally's.
And a lot of them are very specific in who they make for.
Yes, they are.
That's not teenage girls. So if you're a tall teenage girl.
No, I mean, I found them in my 20s and 30s, and they're good for corporate wear. If you've got ordinary stuff to wear to an office, you'll probably be all right there. If you want something to, dare I say, look fashionable, it's probably not the right place.
Yeah, it is. It can be quite difficult, which is obviously the beauty of being able to sew, because you can make whatever you want, however you want, whatever you want, and make a bag to match.
You can. I haven't made any bags for the boys yet, but what I have done as well is to embroider the polo shirts. So he runs a commercial cleaning company, and my stepson works there as well. And it means I can kit them out. I can embroider their logos on whatever they want me to. So that's just, that's a fairly readily available service, but it's still quite nice just to be able to go, right, here's another one.
Yeah, and especially, if they want to change their T-shirts, it's much easier for them to do it if they've got somebody in-house.
Yes, it just means they can. So their core colour is like a forest green. They just turn up with a forest green T-shirt. Embroider this, please. So easy.
Make this look nice.
Absolutely.
What embroidery machine do you have?
I've got an XE1, which it's a brother, and I'm trying to see if I can see I'm going to show you the hoop size to give you an idea of what it can do.
Me and Lynn just had exactly the same thought at exactly the same time. Oh wow, that's a big size.
That's the hoop. So it's not the biggest hoop they make, believe it or not, but it's perfectly big enough to make most things. And if you imagine the size of a T-shirt front, or the back of a shirt, or you could go like this way, it would go across the breadth of somebody's shoulders. I think the sewing space is like 14 inches across. I can't remember. In fact, it says so here, 9.5 by 14. See, it knew I needed to know. But that's a great size for doing all sorts of things. And I've made some bags with that. I've done some logo based T-shirts with that as well, and that is quite fun. But I'm not a very frilly person. It's funny, when I started looking at embroidery machines, I always thought embroidery was floral and traditional, and I thought I wasn't the right age group for doing it. I thought I was too young, because you think, oh, it's all going to be, I'll put this nice teddy, or I'll put some teddies on a baby's thing, and it's so not about that these days. The amount of interesting stuff you can get is just amazing. I think that's true,
especially with the likes of. Sorry, I was just going to say, especially with the likes of that urban threads.
Urban threads, they're just such fun, and it's the same in every discipline. So if you want slightly unusual garments to be made, there's designers out there who will do that. There's some who've done a goth range, there's some who've done a grunge range for sewing, and the same to an extent with bags, although with bags you can customize them to make them, like I was saying earlier about this one with the pointed studs and the skulls on. It's quite a sensible grown-up bag, and it wasn't by the time I'd finished with it. So,
so do you have a favorite type of material to work
in bag making, or in I think my favorite, although I haven't done any yet, which is a kind of a confusing statement, my favorite is leather, and that's because I like the finish that leather gives in a finished bag. However, I haven't actually made any bags. I've made purses with it, but not bags yet. And if I were to buy a handbag, I would only ever buy leather. And I think that's because it wears so nicely. It lasts a long time. However good faux leather you buy, there's always an element of wear on the corners, and it is more susceptible to knocks and bangs. And if you scratch it, you can't fix it. So I think my heart would always take me back to leather. I think I like good quality faux, and I like textured faux as well. I prefer to use a pebbled faux, or there's a. Now, I don't know whether this is a term. Do you know what Saffiano leather is?
No, I haven't heard of that one.
Saffiano is that if you look close up, it's got a grid on it, but it's not an even grid. It's like crisscrosses.
Right.
Michael Kors used them a lot a few years ago in their bags, and it just gives a slight texture to it. Quite often they're on the diagonal, but it just stops it from being flat. I don't think I've got any. So that this is a matte one. This is just a fairly plain matte one with a small grain, which you won't be able to see. But then I like this, which is a mock croc.
Yes, I
do like a bit of texture in them. I just think it adds an interest. So if I just made that in plain grey, it would probably look like that.
It just adds, it's a bit more stylish, isn't it?
Yeah, there's something about it, and I think mock patent croc is something I like. Mock patent lizard I like as well. So I've got some lovely patent lizard in black, and that's fabulous made up. I've just haven't got anything in it at the moment.
So do you have a favourite supplier?
No, not particularly. I have bought a lot through an upholstery supplier called Romo, but they don't retail directly. They sell through usually curtain and upholstery retailers. So if you can find anybody that will sell you offcuts of that's quite good, because that blue, this Harriet. I'm just going to give up trying to say that one is, which means it's quite hard wearing, and it does still have some level of it, but it's designed to be upholstery, but in commercial outlets. So it's designed to probably be in bars and public environments. So it's just that little bit more hard wearing. Other than that, I'm just drawn to interesting things. I think the range of faux leather that Emmeline does,
yes, the Mora,
that is quite nice, because again, that's got a nice texture to it, and it's also
subtle, isn't it?
And it's also not a solid colour. It's just got those slight varieties, and I think that might be what appeals to me about the leather. If it's too even a colour, it looks too unnatural, and I think to have those slight variations just make it that bit more interesting. Well, I think those are fun, and whatever you get, if it's good enough quality, or even if it's bad quality and you interface it, you're going to have fun making some stuff. And I think I think starting out, it's a lot more accessible now, because you can get quite a lot of offcuts for not very much money. so you can have a really good practice, and whether you buy off cuts or whether you buy it off the roll or in specialist little printed pieces, doesn't matter, because it's all good stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of people have sort of a special place in the heart for the Mora vinyl. I hear a lot of people talking about that, and yes, it might be a little bit more expensive. Expensive's not probably the right word, but it's on the higher end of cost.
Yeah,
but you can tell it's quality when you see it, and when you see it made up, you can see how nice it is, and it doesn't tend to wear as much as some of the cheaper vinyls do.
That's right.
What have you. So I think if you're making something that little bit more special, or you just want something a little bit more high-end looking, it's definitely worth looking at those types of vinyls to get the finished look, isn't it?
I think that's true, and I think that's also true of hardware. That by either choosing hardware well or choosing hardware to a good quality can really elevate the look of something.
Yeah.
So in this selection we talked about earlier, I'm just going to grab two of them back again to do a kind of compare. So this is the Sophia, and this has got really basic fittings. So it's got dead standard. I say bog standard. I'm sure I'm not allowed to say that on video, so whatever. It's got very standard. It's got rivets, and it's just got very, very standard rectangular rings. So that's actually a cheap finish. So with that one, I've gone for the interest with the fabric, and I've gone for placing the lady here almost to size 8, and the findings don't matter, because they're just cheap and cheerful. Whereas with that one, I've gone with slightly more elevated ones. So these are solid rings rather than split ones, and they're designed to actually be a feature in it, and they actually even feel nice. I don't remember where I bought them from.
You can see that they're a little bit thicker as well.
Yeah,
they look that little bit more sturdy.
Yeah. If you hold them up beside each other, just about. I mean, this one is the round one is far more prominent on the fabric. This one's just designed to work, whereas this one is designed to look nice. And the same is true of this little class. You can get very inexpensive ones, which are great if you do cloth sewing, and it's not it's not a long lasting thing. Or you can get that one, which is probably still only quid and a half, a couple of quid. It wasn't expensive, but it just looks that tiny bit nicer.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And it's the same comes into like interfacings and things like that. Like one of the things I found when I very, very first started bag making was I would just go and buy, the cheap generic interfacings, £1 a metre.
Yeah.
And they were awful. They didn't stick. They, usually non-woven, well, they were always non-woven, so they creased to death the minute that you turned the bag through. And it wasn't until I really started to learn and understand about interfacings and stabilizers and why you need to use them, because sometimes I'd go, oh, I'll be fine. It really wasn't. Yeah, a lot of floppy bags in the beginning of my bag making journey. So it is worth sort of like, you don't always have to buy the most expensive, but it is definitely worth matching, your interfacings, your hardware to the materials you're using to get your overall.
Absolutely,
overall
and also to your style. I've a good friend Mandy who her bags that she makes are very, very structured. And there's probably, I don't know how many levels of decaville she's got inside it, but they're very structured. They have a certain look. Whereas I prefer a softer look of bag. So even though I love what she does and I admire it, I wouldn't do it. I choose a different.
Elaine's saying, in other words, we novices will learn to be more disconcerting in our choices. Yeah, I mean. Yeah.
Absolutely, but absolutely experiment. You can experiment and have some successes. So one of the things I've used, which is not in the books, is there's quite often you're called for a little bit of foam, and generally it's kind of 2 or 3 mil foam, and it's to give a bag some structure. I think this one has probably got foam in. I really can't remember. but it's probably got some level of foam in it to give it some structure and when you put it down, it just doesn't sag in a heap. One of the things I came across in my random forays around the wholesalers was a roll of bra foam. Now, you wouldn't have thought bra foam worked until you look at the structure of it. So this is the sort of thing that goes into some cups, but a lot of bra cups are molded now. So it's not about those. It's about when there's one that's pieced together. Probably if you look at the innards of a really flash evening dress that's strapless, it's made of panels of this foam. And I thought, well, I've got this roll of bra foam, and if you think about making bras, that's going to make a lot of bras, and I'll never sell it. So I thought, I'm going to make bags with it and see what happens. And you know what? It's about the same, because it's about 3-4 mil thick. It's got enough structure to stand up when you want it to, and that absolutely works. And a lot of people use car headliner for the same reason. There's things you can use which are perfectly transferable and cheaper than whatever. And now, how do you say it? Flyzoline?
Yeah, I never know how to say it, and I should do, but I don't know how to say it. Yeah,
whatever they're called, because they have rebranded as well, which doesn't help. So yes, they'll sell you an absolute specialist thing that will be perfect for the job. But also, go down to your bra wholesaler, see if they've got spare bits. Go on eBay and look for some headliner.
Yeah, and it's about finding what works for you as well, isn't it? Like. And again, this is something that I say all the time. What works for one person, somebody else might not like. Yep. But what works for them, somebody else might not like. So it's about using what you like, doing it how you like to do it. And if it works, it works. It's right.
That's absolutely right. And you can have such fun being creative but when you're starting, you absolutely do need to use what you've got. Don't invest in all the stuff, or you'll end up with things that you think, oh, that was a good idea, and the person next to you uses it, but you will never ever use. So
I've got so many gadgets that I was like, oh, I'm going to buy one of them because that'll be really good, and it sits in a drawer, and I don't ever use it.
Okay, here's a question back for you then. What's your best gadget buy, and what's your worst one?
My best one is this. It's got a bit of glue on it because so for rolling out my strap handles when I'm using vinyl, absolutely love it.
Fantastic.
Probably closely followed by my stapler.
Yes, I'm a convert to that too.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously my huge amount of rulers, I could not manage without every single ruler that I own, whether it's a half inch, 3/4 inch, 12 inch, 16 inch, I use it. Like, if there's a ruler for a job, I want the ruler, not the ruler that'll work. I want the specific ruler.
Oh, I have many.
And I'd say the thing that is probably, I'm trying to think like what, kind of like sort of think what I've got. I'd say all of the fixing tools. Yeah. You know, sort of. Obviously, I've got a rivet press, like the green machine, which I use all the time. Yeah. But I've bought over the years so many fixins, like snaps and different types of snaps and all the different colours, and I rarely use them.
No, I think that's fair. I think you do end up, and that's probably going to be one of mine. So one of mine that I got that I thought was amazing that I still haven't used is I bought an oval eyelet setter, because I thought how amazing would an oval eyelet setter be, and it wasn't the cheapest thing in the world because they just get more expensive.
No, they never are.
No, and I haven't used it since, because I had these great designs like making the Sophia with eyelets in and hasn't happened. And I think like you, I've got lots of scissors, lots of rulers, lots of basics, because there are so many different ways you can use these things. Mm-hmm. I think the big thing that was probably transformational, bar the heavier duty sewing machine, was the rivet press, because I hit them in by hand, and that's just soul destroying, because however hard you hit them, they never go in the same.
I mean, again, I think one of those hand setting tools as a starter kit. Yeah, it's great.
Yes, absolutely.
But if you're setting lots of rivets, if you rivet, if it stops still long enough and you rivet it, which is me, you know, it can be a game changer. But I only have one die, and I use the same size rivets. I'll use different length posts.
Okay, yeah,
but I use 8mm rivets.
Yeah.
So I have an 8mm die, and then I'm not changing it out all the time. I'm not.
No,
like.
I think that's fair, and I think I use my 8 the most. I do have a 6, but that is really useful for me with some of the embroidery things. So if you're making key rings, going back to that, I'm going to keep bringing this one out because it's not like those.
No, you should, because it's lovely.
Like that.
Yes.
The 8mm does overwhelm it just a tiny bit. I mean, probably not that any other humans would notice, but you and me will go, well, that's a bit big, really.
Yeah. It's what you're happy with as well, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think there is a time and a place for those. But yeah, like the eyelets, I only have one. I know I have two eyelet sizes. One is a lace size eyelet for making. Again, that's probably more for key rings and the top of things. And I've got a 12mm or 15mm, I can't remember the size, just for, you know, ordinary ropes or ties or in.
Yes.
So I think you end up not knowing which ones you use. And I know that in the Kent Bag Makers group, that's something we see a lot. So I know I need a rib press. Now, what do I need to buy with it? And we just kind of went, one of them. Don't I need all the sizes? No.
Yeah.
No, you will never ever use them. Or you'll never get them to match each other. You'll end up with 9mm rivets and 8mm fixing. So
yeah.
Elaine,
I've just got to come back to this comment because Elaine is saying that she loves the flower.
Thank you. I will dig out who did the design.
Send me any of the links and I can add them in the description later on. No problem.
I know where to find her in my shortcuts, but I can't think of the firm's name just this second. So I will do that. But they're just, it's not just nice to accessorize a little something with what you're making. So I think that's fun.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people in like my Facebook group that use embroidery in their bags, and it can just bring like a whole another level to it, as well as sort of like people who is it called sublimation? I never know how to say that with the printing.
Sublimation.
Yeah. You know, it's so clever because it just can make your makes just so totally unique.
It can, and I think all of those things, whether it's that or a cricut or embroidery, they're also nice for personalizing things. A lot of people, particularly people with unusual names like me, like to have their names on things.
Yeah.
You know, if you put your name on a strap, you know you're going to get your own bag back. This when it's useful, isn't it?
Yeah, my youngest daughter has that problem of never being able to find her name in anything, and especially spelled the right way, Niamh.
Nieve? Oh no, Niamh.
Yeah. So she's like, cheers for the unusual name, Mum. I'm like, you're welcome.
Yeah, I've seen more of those outside of mainland England.
Yeah.
I think I've seen it more in Southern Ireland, but it's
Yeah.
Yes.
Rebecca's saying she bought 20 meters of non-woven interfacing. I used some once and it's just taken up space. Yeah. I actually have some, and I don't even know why I bought it, but I've had some sew-in non-woven interfacing. I mean, why I would have that, but no idea.
That is the most useless thing in the world.
Yeah. Apart from tracing patterns.
Yeah. What you actually use that for is making men's tailored jackets, and that's virtually all.
And I don't even know how I ended up with it. It's probably somebody's given me it, probably.
Yeah.
But it's amazing for tracing patterns.
Share it out with your friends. That's what you should do with your mistakes. Because all of you will be able to use a meter, but you'll never use 20 meters of blooming thing.
Yeah. No. I mean, I can go through 20 meters of woven interfacing in about a week sometimes.
Oh,
but non-woven I very, very rarely use.
That's fair.
Yeah. Oh, and Rebecca's asking, what is car headliner? Never heard of it.
Right. So it's probably more obvious in older cars than modern ones, but it's if you're in your car and it's got a solid roof, so not with a sunroof, it's the stuff that goes on the roof and sticks to the ceiling, and it gives you a little bit of bounce. And sometimes it's
when you bang your head.
Yeah, it's lining the head bit of the car. So it's just basically foam, and the fabric that's bonded to it is like a low grade. It's slightly fuzzy.
Mhm.
It's not as fluffy as felt, but it's not smooth either. So I think it's designed largely. I think it's designed to have things stuck to it. It
Yeah.
could be all sorts, but it's basically, I suppose it's to bond it to, it's so it's not just foam. Because if you just had foam and you stuck it up there, it would rip. So you basically glue it
Yeah.
into the car when you're doing the roof of it. But it just has different thicknesses, and it has a
you can get a couple of different bills, can't you, in it?
Yes, and you can get different colours of it. Oh, I've got a visitor. Hello. It's got to have different thicknesses. You can also get the base, the core colour as black or white or beige or whatever, because it's designed to go underneath what's going to be in the top of your car. So grey is quite common. You're going to go, and I'd never seen that in my car in its life, but why would you look at your car ceiling? But the grey, but it's all colours that if you put it underneath a bit of lining, it needs not to show. So if you've got a light coloured lining sticking a pale grey, you can you see this creature's tail?
Andy's saying older cars used to have foam headliners before the cardboard that they use now.
Fantastic, thank you, Andy.
So,
it's very useful. It felt like it was a traditional thing, but they must still use it in something, or they wouldn't.
Yeah, they probably use it a lot in, sort of. I want to say refurbing, but that's not the right word. Like, when they do up cars, and they'll take an old car and do it up, and the headliner needs replacing.
At our house.
Yeah, we do too.
It's on bloke TV, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. We tend to try and have like a little bit of fairness. Andy gets to watch, car programs, and I make him watch sewing, restoration. Andy's just pointing me in the right direction. I knew it was something like that.
All of those programs, what we call bloke telly, it's okay if we have girl telly as well. That's fine. Yes, there's lots of stuff that you can use. It's basically if you find a bit of material, see whether it feels right, and if you're just starting off, get a feel for whether it's the sort of structure that you want to have. It's like if you found a bit of kids' foam. There's all of these weird hybrid things that you can buy from crafts now. If you felt it, think, actually, would that work? Might do. If you felt it and it falls apart, that's not worth your time. But it might just be there's stuff in your kids' craft thing that would work as well. So there's plenty of stuff you can try with. Just definitely. What's the worst that could happen?
She discovered it when doing carnival costumes last year. Used them as padding for wire bras and large feather backpacks. So definitely useful to have. Yeah.
But honestly, the bra foam is normally expensive. If you ever come across a roll wholesale and it's cheap, just buy it because you will use it.
Yeah.
Fancy dress is amazing for.
And Susan, what is it about bag makers and cats? I am including myself, of course.
I think we all have cats or dogs, or we're not great adventurers. We're not out looking, traipsing around up huge hills or something. We're indoors doing nice things with our families and our pets. That's fine.
Yeah, well, I've got 2 dogs, which people probably often hear in the background, especially if the door goes or anything when I'm recording or filming or anything, and then all you can hear in the background's two dogs going absolutely crazy. Maureen's saying, don't have any pets, never had a cat, just dogs, fish and budgies. Yeah, we can't have cats because I'm a little bit allergic, but Andy is extremely allergic to cats. But he's like catnip to them. If you go anywhere and they do have a cat, they're like, oh, an allergic person. Let's make them suffer. Totally make a beeline for him. And then he's ill for the rest of the day, sometimes into the next day. But I'm a little bit like that with one of my dogs, actually. If he sits on me, he sets off my allergies. I've got to keep sort of
things we do.
I know. I wouldn't be without him. Well, I'm not. Well, apart from at 7 o'clock in the morning when he's waking us up. But
that's quite loud in the morning when he thinks he wants food. So we know.
Yeah, but I never miss a delivery. because the minute the delivery driver is approaching the door,
Oh, you've got
I
your spare doorbell. Yes.
I am alerted. Yes. Oh, well, thank you everybody for all the interesting questions in the chat, and thank you very much to Rae for joining us this evening. It's been really fun chatting to you and hearing all about your journey, not just with bag making but with sewing as well. I really like sometimes to speak to people who aren't just bag makers, and hear how they can incorporate other sort of hobbies and crafts into their bag making too. It's really interesting. So thank you very much for giving up your time this evening. Really enjoyed it.
Absolute pleasure.
Next week we'll have the lovely Diane on, Diane Richards. If any of you are in any of the Facebook groups in the UK, you will see Diane's bags. They're absolutely amazing. She pattern tests for a lot of companies as well, so I'm really looking forward to chatting with her. So she is next week at 8 o'clock. So thank you everybody for joining us this evening, and until next week, see you later. Bye.